Now, Douglas, no one will ever call you naive. Could you foresee this coming the minute you heard the news?
No. You're always surprised by people who are willing to take offence at anything, by how low their bar of offence-taking indeed is. To my mind, who Her Majesty the Queen desires to knight is a matter for Her Majesty the Queen and her government. I don't see what is so wrong about Sir Salman Rushdie. I think it's a wonderful thing. I have to say I'm not the greatest admirer of his books. I think he's a very good writer, but I don't think that anyone could see this as being anything but a sign of independence on the part of the knighting commissions, or whoever is behind these things. It shows great independence. It shows great pluck. I think a good deal of sense, apart from anything else, if people are going to object to Sir Salman Rushdie. I'd love to know why they don't mind when the idiot Lord Ahmed is made a lord. Why should he be made a lord and Sir Salman can't be made a knight? Why Sir Salman Rushdie shouldn't be made a knight and, say, Sir Iqbal Sakrani should be, a man who said that death was too good for Salman Rushdie. If he can be knighted, then I certainly think Salman Rushdie should be knighted. I think it vaguely cancels out the evil of knighting Iqbal Sakrani and giving a peerage to the goon Ahmed.
Strong words, Abdul Rahman.
I'm not saying in any respect he shouldn't have done that, but nor is he a man who has shied away from controversy. Let's put it that way.
I'm just sort of stating the fact that nothing he did, nothing he wrote is really controversial at all in the eyes of most people. In that he expressed an opinion quite densely shown in the book about a sort of form of satire of the Quran, which is fairly low. At a low level of the importance of the book, and makes a reference to Islam's prophet Muhammad, says things which ordinarily would cause no fuss if you said them about any other religion. If you said them about Christianity, you'd join a great many people across the Western press saying it. If you said it about anything else...
Including someone like Dan Brown. I mean, Dan Brown, in many ways, the blasphemies, if you call them that in the Da Vinci Code, are far greater than those in
it seems to me that the only important issue here is why there are people who take such great offence at such small things. Well, you said earlier about the cartoons controversy. Isn't it ridiculous that we talk about the cartoons controversy?
But I think I think we have to accept that geopolitical reality. Same with the cartoon controversy. The cartoons would have been nothing had it not been for the backdrop of a perception within the Muslim world that there's a war against Islam and a war against the Muslim world.
No, hang on here a moment. The Danish cartoons would not have come to attention if there weren't a group of imams, two in particular, who decided to take offence and then take a world tour of taking offence. Decided to take a world tour of taking offence and show cartoons they'd also made up that were far more offensive than any of the other ones around to other people in order to whip up such sentiment. Ayatollah Khomeini, I don't think, was a reader of Salman Rushdie's early work. I don't think that Ayatollah Khomeini ever sat down with his copy of the Satanic Verses, his advance proof, and then decided to take offence. This is a man willing to take offence. He wanted to take offence. He wanted to whip up other people who don't read books and can't read any long book to take offence as well.
Within a particular geopolitical context, and same with the Danish cartoons. The fact that the Muslim community in Denmark suffering apparent very public Islamophobia, very public pressure, racism, racism, attacks on Muslim women and young people, attacks on mosques, vilification in the mainstream media. The cartoons didn't come out of the
vilification in the mainstream media in Denmark. The mainstream media in Denmark
tiptoed
around this issue. And might I add that this only came about.
Epistles of the DPP and others.
Well, I do read Gillian Posten.
For someone who wants to know social cohesion,
I certainly do know about Gillian Posten. Hang on. What, Denmark is a racist country?
There is profound racism and Islamophobia.
You're just going to write off a whole country as racist? Do you think there's any racism in that?
It's an evident. I didn't say it's a racist country. I said there is racism in Denmark. That racism has been strongly felt by the Muslim community there. I've been to Copenhagen. I've spent time with the Muslim community there. The cartoons came out of a very specific local situation. Indeed, it was globalized.
They came out.
But the fact that those cartoons were picked up by the Arab media, by the press in the broader Arab world, was because they fitted it into a notion of a war of the West against Islam and Muslims. The fact that Iraq and Palestine provide a backdrop for that is just the worldview and the situation that we're in.
Look, no. Denmark a country in which it was discovered that in a set of children's books about various religions couldn't depict Islam's prophet in their book, and that no cartoonist wanted to do it. You want to talk about fear, you want to talk about racism, how about just being an illustrator in Denmark who feels their life's going to be on the line if they draw a picture for a kiddie's book? You want to talk seriously about how it feels to be scared, and then they do a cartoon for their local paper, and that their lives are under threat, and their families are threatened, and they have to go into hiding? You want to talk about what it is to feel threatened?
No, I think that's absolute exaggeration. 3 years earlier,
well, you can
that
go and
same newspaper was
Rose.
presented...
And looking at the canon of contemporary great British writers and thinking we have a certain number of honours to give in this area, we want to reward someone for their commitment to literature over 30 years, should they say, well, let's not do that one, because he means something far more than the sum of his parts to 1.5 billion, supposedly 1.5 billion Muslims?
Yes, it can't be stressed enough how little you take notice of the opinions of people who hate and then burn books they don't read. Such people are not people whose opinions you should be considering.
The issue was this particular knighthood a good decision? I don't think it was.
No, the issue is not that. The issue is whether or not, in a free society like Britain, we have the right to say what we want and to write what we want and to not be censored, not be killed, not be forced into hiding, not be the subject of fatwas by evil old men.
But essentially, there's a point in this, because although you said earlier, yes, okay, this issue's done, finished, there's going to be another issue, isn't there? There will be. If someone, somewhere, for some reason, does insult the Prophet Muhammad, there will be another
You just call him a
reaction.
prophet.
Yeah, there may or may not be.
Well, he is a prophet.
There may or may...
Is he? Do you believe so?
Well, I believe he's a prophet to Islam, yes.
Well, you can just call him Muhammad. If you don't believe him, don't call him the Prophet Muhammad.
Well, all right.
Why is he recognised as a prophet?
Call him
It's a
Islam's
recognised
Prophet
term.
Muhammad. Call him Islam's
Do you
Prophet.
think Salman is now actually a knight on shining armour? I mean, it's
No, I say you don't need to call him.
are ultimately
You don't need to
words.
call him your prophet if he's not your prophet.
I don't
He's
think
not my
Alan is
prophet,
calling
but-
him his prophet. But the issue here is not a question of freedom of speech. The issue here is whether this is a good decision or not. That's essentially the issue. The issue is not freedom of speech. Salman Rushdie published his book. The book was not curtailed in this country. And talking about censorship, I think...
Hang on, the paperback was curtailed. Hang on, the paperback was curtailed.
I think Simon Jenkins, during the Danish cartoon controversy, made a very important point, is that as journalists we ought to understand, is that we make decisions every day to censor ourselves, to curtail what we say, to choose the kind of stories that we report, and to choose the way in which we report
The
them.
knighthood demonstrates the fact that the Queen and the British government do not award knighthoods on the basis of what a rioting mob will think in Pakistan or in Tehran.
And we'll end on that point.
Commendable.
Douglas, what have you got for us?
Well, two things quickly, I suppose. One is the interesting news today, a launch at the House of Commons of the Association of Ex-Muslims, which I thought was an interesting meeting and an interesting development, that there are now a group of people who feel confident enough to band together and say they're not believers, and they are, in the words of Muslims, I suppose, apostates, and they're open about this, and I think that it's a good move. It's a good move when anyone feels that they can say what they believe, and to do so with freedom, impunity, and without fear of threat. So I'd mention that, and I'd also mention the very good and exciting news of the death of Bernard Manning, which I think is a great development this week and a great success and pleasure for Britain.